So President-elect Trump's victory is solidifying a massive political realignment around the country in real time. But as we look at voter analysis and groups Kamala Harris did best with, including wealthy, non-religious, and college-educated people, what does it tell you about the Democratic Party and why it's struggling? Fox News contributor, former White House press secretary Ari Fleischer joins us now to break it down. Really stunning, the realignment. You tweeted that out. The group she made the most progress with was?
Rich people, people who make more than $100,000 a year, people who say they have no religion, she won them by 40 points, and people with postgraduate degrees. The base of the Democratic Party, Brian, is increasingly a rich, non-religious, super-educated group of Americans, and that's why they're struggling with Latinos and working-class Americans.
It's interesting because you've been inside campaigns. Weren't they seeing this in real time? And then they still went out and booked Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Bruce Springsteen.
And their whole focus on it's okay for men to compete against women in sports. They just do so many things that just rub against the grain of what America has always been and send every signal to working class people, we don't care about you. We have an idea, an elitism, an ideology about America that you don't fit into anymore. And people feel it.
Here is Jake Tapper talking about this comms issue that they're blaming it on. It's all about communications. Watch.
I just have to say, I've been doing this job now for many, many years, many decades, and I have to say, it's always a comms issue, right? It's never the record. It's always they're just not communicating what they did effectively enough. The truth of the matter is that there was horrific inflation, and people had trouble buying groceries, and like for most Americans, a $400 problem is a big problem.
Yeah, America was on the wrong track. People wanted change. This was a change election. But what's interesting about that is, of course, it brought Trump to the White House. It got the Senate to go Republican, but it didn't move a lot in the House. Republicans still have to be wise about how big an agenda, how much of an agenda they should push. I think President Trump has an instinctive feel for that. But the House is going to go Republican, Brian, but it's going to go Republican with a very small margin. It's going to be a real test of Republican unity. Can they deliver for President Trump and the country?
Does it show you that the Trump popularity, along with the agenda, it wasn't just the agenda or the mistakes of the previous administration? Trump got more than the Senate, did even better than the Senate and better than the House would indicate?
Well, sure. Presidents almost always lead the ticket, and that's what happened here. But because the president led the ticket, it enabled Republicans to pick up the seats in the Senate that they did. But the House remains very closely divided. And all I'm saying is Republicans need to be realistic. How much unity will they have in the House?
All right, I want you to hear this exchange because you used to have this job, and the premise was, we know KJP said, by the way, Donald Trump's a fascist, and the world's over if he wins. Watch.
This administration message to millions of Americans that they're going to wake up the day after the election if Trump won and have their rights stripped away, that democracy would crumble, and the president said today we're going to be okay. So how do you square that?
I can square that. There was an election 2 nights ago. There was. And it was a free and fair election. And we respect the election process. It's important.
For example, is the message to people who are fearful based on what the messaging was about mistakes?
Well, now you're just twisting everything around, and that's really unfair. No, it is. No, Jackie, it's unfair.
And she took her book and went home.
Yeah.
She actually left right after that.
Well, a couple points. I mean, the question is a good question because Kamala Harris called Donald Trump a fascist. So if he's a fascist, how's everything okay? As for her getting up and leaving, you know, I was not allowed to leave the room until the senior wire reporter said thank you. It was up to the press how long I stayed in the room. I'm traditionalist. I go by those old school rules. I couldn't just pick up and go. I would never have disrespected the press like that.
After 9/11 attacks, emotion was extremely high back then.
Yeah, but there was a tradition. The press secretary did not leave the podium until the senior wire reporter said thank you. That was decades-long tradition. I guess that's over with.
You liked President Biden's tone, though, right?
I liked his tone, but you know what? It didn't matter to me because the tone of the Democratic Party in 2017 when Trump came in, that is not what they did. They ran the worst transition in the world. They set Trump up in those briefings that they then leaked to the press about the Steele dossier. It was not a smooth transition from Trump to Obama to Trump.
Right.
Because of the games they played that hurt Trump.
And Joe Biden was in the room when they finally hatched that plan. I tried to end on an upbeat note, but it was great to see you. All right, fantastic.
Always
especially
thank
now
you.
to communicate how they should be staffing. We'll have you back a lot.